Superheroes face tough choices every day, but here's a real dilemma. If you were one, would you ever date a villain? Sounds crazy, right? But believe it or not, some of Marvel and DC's greatest heroes have crossed that line, and in many cases, more than once. Some have even dated multiple villains. Stick around, because the couples on this list are sure to surprise you, especially number 4. But I will start with a more soft one. I will start with probably one of your favorite heroes ever. I am talking about the Daredevil, aka Jeff Hardy. Just kidding. Although Jeff Hardy was truly a hero for millions of people. But in his case was his brother, who is, coincidentally or not, also called Matt, that actually dated a villain. I guess if your name is Matt, you're destined to date a bad girl. But anyway, Marvel Daredevil, aka Matt Murdock, is known for his unwavering moral compass. He's a man who believes in redemption, in justice, and in the idea that anyone can be saved. But then came Elektra, a woman who not only blurred those lines but downright shattered them. Matt and Elektra first met in college. It wasn't long before they fell deeply in love, and for a while it seemed like their future was bright. But this is a superhero story, and happiness never lasts long, does it? Elektra's life took a dark turn when her father was murdered. Devastated, she decided to abandon Matt and left for a life consumed by vengeance. Fast forward a few years, and when Elektra returned, she wasn't the same person Matt had fallen in love with. She had become an assassin working for the Hand, a deadly organization. Now, here's where things get messy. Despite knowing Elektra was working for the bad guys, Matt still loved her. He believed in the good he once saw in her, even as their lives clashed. One day they'd fight side by side, the next they'd be on opposite sides of the fight. But the unexpected happened and everything changed. Elektra was ordered to kill Matt's best friend, Foggy Nelson. Matt begged her to walk away from the Hand, but their love wasn't enough to save her from her path. And things ended tragically when Elektra was killed by Bullseye, one of Daredevil's greatest enemies. But her death wasn't the end of their story. Elektra was resurrected by the Hand, and while she occasionally fought alongside Daredevil after her return, their love could never go back to what it was. I guess the moral of the story is that sometimes even love isn't enough to save someone from themselves. Now, moving on to a character you probably expected to see on this list, but it's still a bit disappointing to find him here, given his principles as a hero. And I say disappointing because after all, he is known for being the Dark Knight, who wages an endless war against crime and corruption. A man so committed to justice. He's built his entire life around fighting the very thing he hates most, bad guys. But that rule seems to bend when it comes to certain women. It turns out Batman didn't always stick to his strict moral code in matters of the heart. Not only did he fall for Catwoman, a master thief, but he also fathered a child with Talia al Ghul, the daughter of one of his greatest enemies, Ra's al Ghul. When it comes to Selina Kyle, she's no ordinary criminal. But while Batman sees most of Gotham's rogues as beyond redemption, Selina has always been, different. Maybe it's because she brings out the humanity in him, the part he tries so hard to suppress. And in return, Batman shows her that even someone who's walked a darker path can still strive for redemption. We could say that they are the perfect couple. But Catwoman isn't the only woman from Batman's rogues gallery to leave her mark on him. Enter Talia al Ghul, the daughter of Ra's al Ghul, the immortal leader of the League of Assassins. Unlike Selina, whose crimes are more personal, Talia's ambitions are far-reaching. She inherited her father's vision, but her feelings for Bruce complicated everything. And things got even more complicated when Damian Wayne was born. Who's that, you ask? He's Batman's son, with Talia al Ghul. You thought the only woman Batman would have children with was Selina Kyle? Me too. And again, to make things even more surprising, Ra's al Ghul actually wanted his daughter to marry Batman. Despite being enemies, Ra's recognized Batman as a great man and hoped he would lead his empire one day. Talia, however, never fully chose a side. While she occasionally assisted Batman, she remained loyal to her father. It's one of those endlessly complicated family dynamics. Can you imagine how chaotic their Thanksgiving dinner would be? Talia, can you pass the turkey? And by the way, whose side are you on this year? It's ironic, isn't it? Batman, the man who built his life around stopping bad guys, has not only loved two women who blur the lines between hero and villain, but also fathered a child with one of them. I guess when it comes to love, Batman's heart doesn't care about good or evil. But Marvel fans, don't think DC is the only one with characters falling for more than one evil woman. Marvel has its own version of Batman when it comes to dating. You probably know him, you probably like him. He's Cyclops. It's funny because Scott Summers is a man so dedicated to the cause of mutant equality that he's practically a living symbol of discipline and control. But when it comes to love, let's just say Scott Summers has a complicated track record. Sure, we all know about his epic romance with Jean Grey, which started with her as a hero but ended with her becoming a villain. It's not really his fault, is it? After all, he started dating her while she was still a hero, so we can't blame him for that one. But what we can blame him for is dating two more villains. Fool him once, shame on them. Fool him twice or 3 times. That's all on Scott. That's right. Cyclops, Mr. Goody Two-Shoes himself, has been romantically entangled with not 1, not 2, but 3 villains. The most famous of them is probably Emma Frost. Emma is no stranger to walking the line between good and evil. She started as a member of the Hellfire Club, manipulating minds and fighting the X-Men. But somehow this cold and calculating telepath melted Scott's heart. And to make things worse, their relationship actually began while Jean Grey was still alive. Emma used her telepathy to connect with Scott on a level even Jean couldn't, and before long they were having a telepathic relationship. Yeah, it's as messy as it sounds. When Jean died again, Scott and Emma's relationship moved from the astral plane to the real world. And surprisingly, Emma became a key ally to the X-Men. Villain turned lover turned teammate. Only in the Marvel Universe. Now the third one is complicated. And this time it was also his fault. After Jean Grey's first death, Scott was heartbroken. Enter Madeline Pryor, a woman who looked exactly like Jean. Turns out, she was a clone of Jean, created by none other than Mr. Sinister. Scott and Madeline got married and even had a son, Nathan Summers, who'd grow up to become Cable. But here's where things took a villainous turn. After Scott abandoned her to reunite with Jean, because, of course, Madeline became the Goblin Queen. She brought chaos to Earth and even attempted to use her own child in a dark ritual. Yeah. Dating a clone of your ex was probably not Scott's best move. I can't tell if he just has bad luck in the dating world or if he's simply attracted to women who are evil, or really good at hiding their evil side. Finally, we've arrived at the fourth one. Up until now, the heroes on this list were somewhat expected, or maybe you already knew their taste in love leaned toward the darker side. But this one, it's going to completely catch you off guard, especially if you don't read the comics. Are you ready? After I reveal the name, don't say I didn't warn you. Here it goes. The superhero I'm talking about is Spider-Man. I know this might come as a shock. Maybe I've just shattered your image of him and you're questioning your faith in our friendly neighborhood hero. But it's true. Spider-Man actually dated Marvel's version of Catwoman, the one and only Black Cat. Her story has some similarities to Catwoman's, as she's essentially her Marvel copycat. Black Cat, aka Felicia Hardy, was a master thief raised by a legendary burglar. Following in her father's footsteps, she became a skilled cat burglar herself. Then Spider-Man came swinging in to stop her, and that's when things got interesting. Somewhere between all the chasing and web-slinging, sparks started flying. Peter found himself drawn to her charisma and looks, while Felicia was attracted to the power and mystique of Spider-Man. They kept meeting each other more frequently, meaning they started having dates. Eventually, they decided to start dating for real. And as expected, they also revealed their secret identities. But apparently, it was a mistake to reveal their secret identities, because that moment was the beginning of the end for their romance. Why? Because Felicia wasn't in love with Peter Parker. She fell for Spider-Man. The mask, the mystery, the hero. She didn't care much for the ordinary guy underneath the suit. When she realized that, she broke up with him. On top of that, her criminal tendencies clashed hard with Peter's strict moral code. I guess they really weren't destined for each other. But hey, at least they stayed close allies. You've probably heard about Batman and maybe even Daredevil, but what about the others? Did you know these couples existed? If you're curious for more, here's the deal. Just hit that like button or drop a comment saying Part 2. And hey, doing both? That would make you a superhero in my book.